I do, sir.
Gotta remove this.
Let me get my from my.
So it's recording, okay? First off, I'm Agent David Trio of the Mexico State Police. We are conducting a criminal investigation. However, this statement is completely voluntary. You can stop answering at any time. Take a break if you need to. We want you to be as comfortable as possible, okay? So I'm recording here. Here in the room with me is...
I'm Sergeant Al Benitez, New Mexico State Police Investigations Bureau out of Santa Fe.
And Victor Rodriguez, agent with Mexico State Police.
And then...
Tom Grover, counsel for Alfredo and Adam Anaya with my office.
Okay, so kind of how this is going to go, kind of want you to be as comfortable as possible, okay? I know this is a kind of a stressful situation, it can be, okay? I know you watched the video, gave you the opportunity to watch the video before this interview. However, I kind of want you to not disregard what you saw, but try to keep it nice and fresh on what happened at the time of the incident, right? Don't try to put things together after you saw it, right? So, that being said, I kind of want you to start from the beginning, what you're doing before shift, well, before the call came out, if you handled any calls prior, the information that you received in reference to the call, how you got dispatched, how you responded, your interaction, your actions, what you saw, what you felt. Try to be as detailed as possible, try not to forget anything. I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm not going to be question, answer. It's not how we kind of do things, okay? I want you to, if you need time to kind of remember or whatever the case may be, that's fine. If you see me taking notes, probably just follow up questions. You might hear this buzz, recording for transparency reasons. Do you have any questions for me before we start?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So kind of like in that manner, what you were doing prior to shift, I'm just going to kind of let you continue and tell me exactly what happened, okay? So you go ahead and start if you want.
Prior to shift, I went to the barbershop to get a haircut. I was leaving for military leave that Saturday. Normal day, I went, got a haircut, went back to the house, got ready for shift. I remember getting on shift. I was working an overlap, basically they had moved my shift. I worked 15 to 23 usually, and for coverage purposes they moved me to 12 to 2000. And I was at the gas station and filling up my unit, cleaning my windshield, just talking with the gas station attendant, and the call came out. I hadn't been on shift 20 minutes. Right at the beginning of the shift, I hadn't had any calls prior or anything. It just, as soon as I got on shift. The original call was for a man that had ran the utility, the Springer co-op utility workers off the road and waved a gun at him. It was respond to the area and pull for the vehicle. I remember calling out to send an additional and see if any of the state police were in the area. I left my lights on to the area. I got to the area, kind of observed to see the truck or anything, and nothing at that point. So I stopped on the corner of Highway 505 and 445 because that was the two roads that you could see where the vehicle would be if it was in the area. I called the reporting party, it was Ryan Bustos. The initial call from dispatch was very vague. It was either a red Suburban, I believe, or a maroon truck with a camper. And so I called Ryan to get more information. I needed more descriptors, more identifiable things for the person in the truck, what happened. Ryan told me that they were working and the truck came up and ran him off the road, and the man inside jumped out and pointed a gun at him. And I don't remember exactly what he said to Ryan, but I remember to the effect of he was going to start hurting people. And he said to go get, I can't remember his name. There's a tow truck company there, Pinion Tire, Sean Mitchell. And I remember Ryan he told him to go get Sean to fix his truck after he ran him off the road, and he pointed a gun at him. And then Ryan was able to give me a really good description of the male, the hat, the sunglasses, his demeanor, and then the firearm he pulled on him said was a silver revolver. I was unable to get a hold of the other utility truck because Ryan said he ran the other truck off the road as well, but I wasn't able to get in contact with him. So I went back to I-25 and staged. While I was going back, you can see down Sean Mitchell's road in Maxwell, and I didn't see any vehicles that matched that description. So I went back to I-25 and I waited for Officer Bukecki or Deputy Bukecki to get there, just because of the nature of the call. So I got more information from Ryan while we were on the phone that it was off a high line, and he gave me directions to where everything was. And it's the main road in Maxwell. It goes west and it turns into a dirt road. And I remember when we were going up, I remember my phone ringing, and it was Adrian Salazar had called me, and I never recognized the number. And then I seen them on the corner down. I knew him. He was a gas station attendant. They used to work in Springer, and I would talk to him, see him every day. And him and his wife were outside, and they waved me down, and they told me, hey, there's a guy waving a gun. He's driving through town waving a gun at people. And I remember his wife, Santana Salazar, telling me that there's a fire drill today at the school. And I remember going through, there's a park, and I don't know if it was the kids from the school or just kids playing from town, but I remember seeing kids at the playground. And Deputy Grosvenor got on scene at that time, and I forget her first name, but it's Roble. She's the superintendent. She lives like 2 houses up, and she's married to one of the deputies that works at the office, and I seen them walking outside. So we pushed up, and I talked to her, and I told Grosvenor to go to the school and lock down the school for right now. Don't create a panic, just lock down the school until we figure out what's going on and what we have, especially with the fire drill. The whole school's going to be outside at that point. So he did that. I remember calling Lieutenant Dominguez to bring a drone, because the area we were driving into, you can't see either side of the road. It's covered with trees, and then it's a driveway, and all you can see is like the mailbox, and then it's just more trees. And I didn't know what this guy's intent was. This is the 3rd person that has said he's waved a gun and pulled a gun on them. So I didn't know at that point what his intent was. I remember calling Sergeant Zablani from New Mexico State Police and relaying the information to him and asking if there was officers, and he said that they were in the area. They were in the vehicle as well. I asked him to go on Highway 505, which is Highway 505 runs really the only exit off of Highline Road versus where we were at on it's Maxwell Boulevard, and then it turns into Elm Street. So I asked Sergeant Zablani to go over there, and he said he would send some officers over there. Myself and Officer Bukecki moved up to, Grosvenor got back, and I told him to stay there. That way, if the vehicle came back into town, he was able to slow it down or provide some sort of, stop the vehicle before it came back into town to do whatever his intent was. We got up to where Elm Street turns in Highline Road, and I stopped on Highline Road, and I just staged there, and I waited. Deputy Bukeki went around the corner. Basically, I think it's a house or there's trees or something that you can't see around that corner. And we just kind of looked and seen if we could see anything for the vehicle. And then I remember Sergeant Zablotny called me on my cell phone and said, we have contact. And we just left the phone on because the radios, we can't hear each other. I can't hear state police and they can't hear my traffic. And so I could hear that they were in pursuit. So I turned around, I radioed to my guys that state police had contact. They were in pursuit of the vehicle at that time. We went back to town, we got on Highway 445, and I was just relaying out the speeds and the mile markers that Sergeant Zablotny was calling, because Lieutenant Dominguez was still coming to the office, so if he hadn't passed the exit, he would be coming that direction that the vehicle was headed. They pursued him to the intersection of 64 and Highway 445. I heard them call out pit, and at that time right before that I could see the lights of the vehicles, and I was coming up and I seen the end of the first pit when Officer Benway pit him, and the vehicle, the red truck, went into the ditch and it's facing the roadway. I pushed up to him to assist him to help, because there was only two of them. And the training I've had, it's easier to have 3 officers. You can have commands, cuffs, and cover. And so I pushed up to help them. I remember the vehicle, like a huge cloud of black smoke from the diesel coming out from underneath the truck, and I see the vehicle come back up on the roadway, and Officer Benway pits the vehicle again, and all of us are getting in our vehicles, like everything's happening simultaneously, like there's no stop, like there's no moment to like assess what's going on right now. The vehicle pits again, and then it comes back. It would be westbound on 64, and Sergeant Zablotny is trying, I don't know if he's going to the vehicle or what, but it appears that the truck just beelines straight towards Sergeant Zablotny. I hear him call out, head on on the phone, and I see him crash, and the truck goes into the south side of the roadway, and I see Sergeant Zablotny, and it appears to me that they're face to face, and I could hear the horn start going on Sergeant Zablotny's truck. So at that point, I don't know if he can see or anything from the impact. I don't know if the airbags, he's facing this person. And then I get out of my patrol unit and I start giving commands, and nothing. He sits in the truck, the driver. He doesn't do anything. We're yelling, giving commands, and then he steps out and he puts his hands up and he walks towards us, towards the road. And we're continuing to give commands, trying to talk to him, and Officer Benway's coming up, and it's kind of hard to remember exactly where everybody was. I know Deputy Grosvenor and Deputy Bukeki were to my right. At some point, Lieutenant Dominguez was to my left, immediate left, and then Sergeant Zablotny was to him, and then Officer Benway was my far left. We continued trying to give commands, and I remember we're yelling, talking to him, get on the ground, and I remember it wasn't working. There was no like dialogue. He was saying that he was free, that we couldn't stop him. He was traveling from reservation to reservation, and he kept just, it didn't make any sense, the things he was telling us. And I remember asking him, tell me your name. Tell me your name. So I was trying to create that dialogue with him, to get him to talk to us, and nothing. And was starting to like come up on 445. I remember we passed two cars when we were coming up to the intersection, and then there was cars starting to come up on 64. It's not a very busy road, but for some reason that day there was cars out there. And I remember we told Deputy Grosvenor to go turn the traffic around, because when we were giving commands, his pace would change, and he kept looking back. And my thoughts was, he's not listening to us. Is he gonna try to steal a car? Is he gonna try to take a hostage? Is he gonna hurt somebody else, the motoring public? Like, they're unaware of the situation, what's unfolding right now. I remember Sergeant Zablani running back up and screaming, less lethal, and gave commands, and he fired beanbag rounds. And I remember seeing them hit the individual, and nothing. There was no response, not a flinch, anything. There was just nothing. I remember Sergeant Zablani engaged him. I don't remember if it was three or four beanbags. But it had no response. He had no response. He had no care. And I remember I thought I was talking to myself, saying to tase him. We need to stop this. We need to bring this to an end, because if he gets to the cars, we're going to have a bigger problem. He's going to have the access to the motoring public, and just it's going to cause chaos. And I remember that yelling pivot, because our backstop is what I could see. And I remember yelling pivot so we could move, so we weren't facing the motoring public. And I remember Lieutenant Dominguez yelled to tase him to Deputy Grosvenor. And I remember him deploying the taser, and the first taser had no effect at all. The first deployment there was no effect. He deployed again, and it locked up his left leg, the upper portion, but as soon as he fell, he was already taking the leads out of his leg. There was no, like, I don't think there was a good connection to create NMI. I remember yelling, or hearing people yelling to cuff him, to attempt to cuff him while he was under power. And I remember Officer Benway, he was coming up, and Lieutenant Dominguez was coming up, and while he was pulling the taser leads out, we had called it out, and I forgot. When he was walking back, we seen his hands like up, and you could see his waistband, and he had a large knife on his waist. And it was in a sheath facing his center line, so it was fast access, really. It wasn't, he didn't have to deploy it or anything. It was, and so after Deputy Grosvenor deployed the taser the second time, and he was pulling out the leads, I saw the individual pull out the knife, and Benway is coming up with his cuffs in hand, and he's within arm's reach. Lieutenant Dominguez is, I would say, within arm's reach too. He's close. And I remember him, it wasn't like I'm trying to get rid of this or anything. He had positive control of that knife. It was, you seen the demeanor in his, or the angle in his arm, like it was structured. And I remember seeing his face. He rolled towards, when that knife came out, I remember seeing his face, and it was just like pure anger. I could see his teeth, just grit in his face. Like, this wasn't he was not stopping at that point. It was going to continue. And I seen his hips lift up off the ground, and he turned, and Officer Benway was right there, like he's close. And I remember firing, and I remember holding farther to my right to avoid hitting Officer Benway, because they were almost on top of him at that point. It was, if not touching him, they were right there. They were attempting to cuff. And I don't remember exactly how many rounds I fired. I remember I fired and I couldn't hear anything. I remember I continued firing until I seen him stop trying to get up. As soon as I seen him stop and he laid back, I stopped. He was still moving at that point, and I remember Lieutenant Dominguez, and I believe it was Sergeant Zablani yelling to stop reaching for his waistband, to stop reaching. And I remember them yelling, cuff him, and they told me to cover him, and I switched from my rifle, and I drew my my pistol, and I just covered him, and then he was still breathing. I didn't know if he was like labored breathing or what. I remember him breathing. He was still moving. I could see his arms moving. And so I remember Sergeant Zablani was talking to him, trying to tell him, we're gonna help you, you know, you're okay, we're gonna help you. And so at that point, I remember handing off my rifle. I could see Sergeant Zablani was getting labored, started having labored breathing. I think he was on his second round of CPR or compressions, and so I handed off my rifle and I told him I need to help. And I remember telling Sergeant Zablani, let me know when you need to switch out. And then I remember at some point Deputy Grosvenor was yelling that we need a tourniquet to his left leg. So I grabbed the tourniquet out of the med kit that we had. I don't remember who brought a med kit, but somebody brought a med kit. And I remember applying the tourniquet to his leg, and then I remember conducting rounds of CPR, and then I remember trying to get a chest seal out. Deputy Grosvenor's are medical SME. He's really good at medical, and I remember checking his body for injuries, and they said he had a wound on his side, and we were trying to get a chest seal out, and then they were trying to give rescue breaths and hold his. I remember Deputy Grosvenor got the chest seal on him, and I remember holding his head and just cycling back through, either giving chest compressions or holding his head to create the airway, or just doing whatever I could to try to help him. EMS got on scene, and they they brought out I want to say it was a bag, and I don't know if it was an EKG or what it was, but I remember seeing a red bag, and I remember Chief Burke coming up. And at that point, we kind of backed away and gave EMS staff room to work, because it's just the working relationship we have with Chief. If he needs something, he'll tell us. If he needs us to back away, we know that he's the expert. Let him work. I remember after that, we checked to make sure everybody was okay. I remember seeing Benway's hand have a cut on it, and I didn't know. Well, I didn't know if it was a cut or if we had hit him, because the way the injury was on his hand. And I remember checking, like talking to each other, and making sure everyone was okay. And then I remember Lieutenant Dominguez telling us, like, okay, gather your stuff, and then we're going back to the office. Don't stop, don't talk to anybody, just go straight back to the office. And at that point, we cleared the scene.
Is that pretty much?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, that if
So I know during the interview you said area, right? Can you be a little bit more descriptive of the area, like town, whatever?
So Highline Road isn't necessarily in town. It's outside of Maxwell is the town. But I was in Springer at the start of my shift filling up, and I drove from Springer to Maxwell, and I think the intersection of 505 and 445 is maybe a mile outside of town. It's right to the north of town. Is there any other
No,
areas
that's
that?
just pretty much, that's all I wanted. I know it's in Maxwell, right, but I need to get a little bit more elaborated on that. So on the second time, so during your interview, you observed the pit, right? The second pit. You say sit in truck. How long would you say you sat in that truck for before you stepped out?
When I seen the pit, everything like slowed down. So like, I don't know, maybe a couple seconds, but it seemed like it was a really long time. I remember yelling to get out of the truck, get out of the truck. But pulling up on the pit, I was afraid because of all the things you see going on. I've never experienced anything like that or been near any sort of encounter like that. And I remember just going through my head, the call is a guy pointing a gun at somebody. Is this where he starts shooting at us? Like, that's the last thing I want. I don't want this to end that way. And I remember being like yelling a lot. And then I calm down whenever I see him get out of the truck and I can see his hands. And we start talking to him, like I said, giving him commands, and it just developed into that situation.
And then as you're giving commands and stuff like that, in what manner is he walking?
So his pace, like, it's very erratic. He turns and walks away from us, turns his back to us and walks away, and then he would slow down and then turn around, and we would yell at him to turn around and stop. And he starts backpedaling like faster. And I remember yelling to the other deputies, push up, like he's pushing away from us towards.
Sit down.
He's pushing towards the motoring public. The intersection of 445 and 64. The traffic is starting to stop right there. I remember somebody told Justin, I don't remember if it was me or who, but I remember somebody yelling to Justin to go turn the traffic around. to get them out of the area. But he was walking like just erratic everywhere, circling and turning around, and he wasn't listening to any of the commands we were giving him.
How far would you say he was from that intersection where that happened? What's the estimate?
I don't know, maybe the length of this parking lot, what is that, to the stop sign? It's not very far. Like if he turned and ran from us, he could
Couple
have
hundred feet, maybe?
maybe at that. He could have ran to the vehicles, and
Okay.
that was my fear of him putting the public in danger.
I kind of want to go into when you hear Sublotny yell less lethal. Kind of want to hear, like at that moment, like how you felt. Like what were you observing? Everything that happened from when you heard the first shot go off. What happened next?
So I heard Sergeant Zablani come up, and he's screaming less lethal, and I remember yelling. I don't remember exactly what I yelled, but I remember like, hey, back out, like to give him space to deploy less lethal. And I remember like registering like, okay, it's not lethal, it's less lethal. And I remember him firing and seeing the beanbag hit him, and there's just no response.
Where did it hit him?
I believe it was in the right above the knee, right in the thigh area. And there was just no response at all. He couldn't seemed like he had like no pain tolerance at all. And I remember seeing the second one, and I've never been shot with a beanbag, but you see the way people react to them, and it's, a lot of people, it's excruciating. They stop immediately what they're doing, and there was just no change in his attitude, no change in his demeanor, no nothing. And then he continued the second one, and I remember him saying something to the effect of, I don't remember his exact words, but why are you doing that, or what is that doing, or something to that effect. And then I remember, I think it was the third, and it was still just no effect on him. He had no change in demeanor, no sense of complying with us.
And after that, you said during the first tase with Mr. Grosvenor,
Yeah.
Deputy Grosvenor, you heard somebody say tase him, right?
Yeah.
You say first tase. How far in between was the first tase and the second tase? Like, what was the width of time of that? Do you remember?
I don't. It was short. It wasn't like a extended amount of time. We seen that the taser went. He deployed the taser, and there was no effect. You could hear the loud pop of the taser. They didn't connect. And then I remember him deploying the second taser, and like I said, it still didn't have an effect on him. It locked his upper leg. I believe it was his left leg, but it didn't have any effect on his upper body at all.
Okay. And then in your training, I don't know if your guys' training is different than ours, but when you tase somebody and you see that there's some type of effect, what's the next move? What are you supposed to do at that point?
As far as the taser, you're supposed to assess if the threat is continuing, if they're still actively resisting, and then you're supposed to yell at the taser again.
Okay. know you may have said this in your interview, you may have answered this question, but you said that you observed Officer Benway and Deputy or Lieutenant Dominguez approach him to attempt to cuff him.
Yes.
How close was that in your perspective, what you saw at that moment? Like,
What I saw Benway was, if not touching him within a hand's, like, he was close enough to touch him at that point. Like I said, Deputy Dominguez was an arm's length away. He was very close as well. I could see him out of my peripherals, like, approaching. I remember Benway was, if not, like I said, if not touching him, he was within a hand's distance of him.
and then when you said you fired, did you say anything before you fired your weapon?
I think I yelled knife, but I don't remember. I remember I think I yelled knife, but I can't say for sure that I did. I remember seeing how close Benway was, and I knew at that point Benway was in danger. Like, there was he was gonna get hurt.
And then you fired your long rifle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is your long rifle equipped with
As far as what?
as far as sighting?
An aim point.
Aim point?
Yeah.
Red dot, green dot,
Red dot.
red dot. Before you fired, what was your line of sight? What were you aiming at exactly?
His, like, little torso right here, because Benway was right here at the top of his shoulder, so I was giving I guess the most room to ensure that I didn't hit Benway. I knew he was close, and I did not want to hit Benway. I knew at that point that he was getting up. His hips were off the ground.
And then, so what made you stop firing your weapon?
I seen him stop and fall back, and I stopped firing as soon as I seen him stop trying to get up. At that point, I didn't feel he was a threat to Benway anymore or any of the officers. At that point, he stopped trying to get up.
And in your own perspective, and how many rounds do you think you fired?
I remember the first round going off, and I couldn't hear anything, but I remember continuously firing until I seen him stop. I would think 4 or 5 rounds. It was weird. Like I said, the sound, after the first round went off, I couldn't hear anything. And then when everything kind of slowed down, I seen him laying back and stop trying to get up. I remember, like, sound coming back, like, super loud. Like, my hearing shut out. I don't know, like electronic earmuffs. That sense of, like, when you turn the muff on, you can hear outside the muffs again.
Okay. Then you said you attempted give CPR, right? You have to give CPR.
Yeah.
Did he say anything? Do you remember like anything that that he was saying at all when you're helping him?
No, I don't remember him saying anything. I remember Sergeant Zablani was talking to him before we started CPR because he was still breathing and moving around and stuff like that. And then I don't remember what Sergeant Zablani seen or what, but he started CPR. And at that point, I just started trying to assist. I seen that Sergeant Zablani was getting late. And
Do you have any other follow-up?
Yeah, just some small, follow-up questions. So you see you responded from Springer, right, to Maxwell?
yes.
And then that school that you described where they had a fire drill, that was in Springer,
No, it's in Maxwell.
in Maxwell. And how far was that from where the scene or where the shooting happened?
Where the shooting happened?
Yeah.
That's like 12 miles. So the initial call was in the city limits of Maxwell, and then when I spoke to Adrian Salazar in Santana, I think that school is 1 block to the south from where their house was.
Okay, from the initial call.
Yes, from the initial call, it's 1 block south, and I don't know, two blocks down the road. It's close, and it's a small town.
And at any point in time, did you ever? Because obviously the call was that there was they brandished a firearm, right? At any point in time, were you aware where that firearm was at throughout this investigation or throughout this incident?
No.
And I know you said when there was a pit that you're training, that you, what is your training as far as when you assist somebody with a pit? What do you do?
We're just supposed to assist and stay back. So, there was really no, I really was kind of unsure of what to do at that point. I seen everything happen, and I knew that the first pit, he obviously didn't stop. There was a second pit, and then when I seen him go head on, I was kind of frozen when you see that intent and that disregard for law enforcement. There was no it didn't seem like he cared. He wasn't gonna stop, and for me to see him go head on with another officer, and from the point I had, it didn't look like Zablani went towards him. It looked like his truck veered towards Sergeant Zablani.
And as far as that knife, how can you describe that knife to the best of your ability?
It was a silver knife, and the blade was silver. And I remember there was on the butt of the knife there. I believe there was something shiny. I don't remember if it was gold or silver. And the knife, the handle appeared to be like 4 or 5 inches long, and the blade was it was a large blade, 6 inches long. I believe the handle was like white, almost like bone, like it had multicolors on it. And I remember the sheath was like a leather sheath. I remember that.
And at what point in time were you able to see that holster for the knife that you said during your interaction with the subject?
When he was walking backwards, he lifted up his hands really high, and his hoodie came up above his waistline. And I remember calling out, knife, knife. And I remember after everything went off, he had another knife on him.
Okay.
And I remember when we were walking up, they were yelling out, he has another knife, he has another knife. I don't remember that knife, where it was, but I remember it was, I think, blue or like a green color, blue or green color.
Once that second connection, that second taser gets, you see that his leg locked up, right, and he goes down. Do you know about Officer or Deputy Dominguez or Officer Benway? What was their role at that point when they approached them? To your best of your knowledge, what was their role? Were they like lethal, less lethal, or what was their role at that point?
Benway for the entire thing had a taser out. He never deployed his taser. I remember he had cuffs in his hand when he was going up to him.
Okay. So Benway had cuffs.
Yeah.
At that point, and then Dominguez. Do you remember?
I don't remember what he had out. I know he was going in to help Benway cuff. I don't know if he had his firearm out prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really see him because we were like walking kind of parallel, and he was like back here.
And I know you made a comment about NMI, about as far as taser. What is that kind of mean?
Neuromuscular. I don't remember the I, but it's the connection to lock up the muscles.
Okay. So that you wanted to explain so that there was no effect in the first, then the second one there was to his leg.
In his leg, it was only his the upper part of his leg, his thigh.
Okay.
I want to say he was still able to move his lower leg.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
So this is where I'll ask you to kind of draw something. I kind of just to your perspective of the scene itself, right? I know you kind of pointed out where everybody was at to the best of your knowledge. Sometimes when you put it on paper, maybe it's a little bit. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. But just your perspective of where you were and where everybody else was, if you can remember. If you can't, that's fine. But just kind of just a brief kind of diagram of the actual scene at the time everything happened for the scene.
Okay. Because there was movement.
Yeah.
Between officers, so.
At the time of
At
the
the time
shooting.
of the shooting. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want the roadways and all that, or?
If you just want to put like the initials of what the circles are, who they are.
So Officer Benway's right here. Lieutenant Dominguez is right here. And I don't remember exactly where Sergeant Zablotny is. I know he's not right on top of him, but I know he's close. And I'm right here. Deputy Kecky's next to me, and Deputy Grosvenor's next to him.
Okay. And this highway right here is
This
just kind of
is-
just, yeah, pretty much right there. That's, okay. Sounds good. Benway, Sablotny, Dominguez, you, and how do you say that?
Bukkake.
Christopher, right?
Yes.
And then,
Justin Grosvenor.
okay, real quick, date it, and that will be attached to this statement. At this point in the interview, we're kind of just gonna kind of go into like demographics, like name, date of birth, work phone number, your shift, your normal days off, stuff like that, okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and start off with your name.
So Alfredo Urquijo. It's Urquijo.
Date of birth,
8/30 of 88.
work phone,
505 617 27.
how long have you been in law enforcement?
At that day, I was under 2 years. I graduated from the academy in May of 23.
What class was it, remember?
205, I believe.
You said your normal shift was 1500 to 2300?
Yeah, our shifts change every 2 months. They rotate, so they go from 1500 to 23 and then 07 to 15.
Okay. And during the time of this incident, you were,
My night shift would have been 15 to 23.
what days?
I was actually on a 7-day. We were going to the next days off, and I had worked. I think I was on Monday, Tuesday, and I had worked Tuesday to help cover, and they were giving me Friday off because I was going on military leave.
So you normally work Wednesday through,
Our days off switch every month. So I was in the transition period from, that would have been Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, that would have been Saturday, Sunday to Monday, Tuesdays off.
okay. How was the weather that day?
It was super, super sunny and hot.
You know if your rifle had any kind of malfunctions?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. How do you load your magazines and firearm? Do you know how many?
30 in my rifle and 28 on my belt. And then I have a mag in my vest that I normally try to keep topped off, and if it's we put down an animal or something, I use that one out of my vest, and then I top it off.
Okay. So the magazine that you had that day in your rifle, there was 30 rounds in it? you qualified to carry a less lethal?
No. As far as,
Anything else other than your firearm?
yes, I'm qualified for OC and taser.
Take me through your routine before you go to work.
Usually get in the shower, shave, check my vest, make sure everything's put together on my vest. Get dressed, I put my duty belt on, I go retrieve my sidearm out of my safe, I press check my sidearm, I holster, I dry fire a few times, and then just ensure my lights on my shoulder, and then the flashlight I have on my belt work, and then I put my vest on and I check, make sure I have everything in there, like cuffs and keys and everything on that, and then turn my radio on, I go start my truck, take my items out to my truck, and turn on my computer, log into everything, and check my light on my rifle, and then my magazine has a window, and I just look in the window, and start my shift, call 10-8 to dispatch and let them know we're starting the day.
If you can remember, how was your sleep prior to this incident? To the day prior, how was your sleep? Your night's sleep?
Nothing notable. I sleep pretty good usually.
How's your family life going? Any problems?
Now or
At the time of what was going on?
nothing? Everything's awesome. Like starting school, it's exciting. Wife's working. Like we're trying to remodel our house. Like everything's.
Do you have any questions for me? No?
No, sir.
Just letting you know, us as state police, we are fact finders. What we do is we gather statements, evidence, everything, collect everything up, conduct the investigation, we send it to the DA's office. DA's office has the ultimate decision on the outcome of what happens in this investigation. If there's any kind of follow-up questions that I may have to ask you, are you okay with me reaching out to you, or I'll reach out to Mr. Glover, and we'll schedule something, and we'll go from there. Okay. You have anything, Sergeant?
I just had a quick follow-up question with the demographics. So as far as the use of force policy for you guys, what is your understanding of it?
As far as what?
Use of force in general with, when you
Use the least amount of force possible to stop the situation.
How about when you use deadly force?
Imminent danger or death is occurring. Like I don't remember exactly the verbiage that's there, but it is you're supposed to go and try the least amount of force possible, and then deadly force, it's imminent death or danger. Great bodily harm is imminent.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of quick
yes,
follow-up
sir.
questions. So there were two officers that were in proximity to the suspect after he had been tased on the ground. Is that right?
Yes.
And what were they trying to do as they closed in on the suspect?
They were trying to take him into custody.
Did they have their guns drawn?
No.
And at that time, that's when the suspect was armed with a knife.
Yes.
And it was your belief that they were at risk of being slashed or cut by that knife.
Whenever he pulled the knife, Benway was close enough, and I thought, did he swing the knife at Benway, and he's getting up now to charge Benway?
And at that time, the suspect was already wanted for a series of violent felonies. Is that right? Did you know who the suspect was?
No.
You didn't have any independent knowledge in terms of what his identity was?
No.
Was the suspect free to leave and just go on his way that day, at that point?
Not at that point.
And then regarding use of force, does your department have a use of force policy?
Yes.
And that's codified in SOP?
Yes.
That's all I have, thank you.
So as far as those officers that were referred to by the attorney, Dominguez, you're talking about Dominguez and Benway? And they both didn't have guns drawn out at that point?
No, Benway didn't, and I don't believe Dominguez did at that point either.
But at that point, you believe that none of them were armed?
Yeah, I didn't. I believe that they did not have any arms on them.
Ends this interview at 11:06.